It's been said that one of the most intimate things people can do is to eat together. At the table, we become interconnected, consuming the same food, sharing in the same conversation. At the dinner table, a camaraderie is formed, bringing others together as one. It's no wonder that going out for dinner is often a first date. Eating together like Jesus and the disciples did at the Last Supper is a form of intimacy. But washing each other's feet? Now, I'm convinced that there isn't much more of an intimate situation between friends and colleagues than washing feet. Just think of the things that could be hiding down there. Things that in many cultures may bring shame. Just think about how you checked your feet before coming here tonight to make sure that others don't see the bad things that could be there. Did you wash? Did you paint? Did you deodorize? I know that many of us did. I also know that some people couldn't bring themselves to be here. It is too intimate for them. Intimacy. I've said it enough times by now to get a gut reaction from you. What does the word intimacy mean for you? Does it evoke thoughts of security? Or more like thoughts of shame? Is intimacy something that the church should be talking about? Isn't intimacy what happens behind closed doors? Well, Jesus doesn't seem to think so in our gospel reading today. He doesn't seem to mind when Simon Peter squirms at the thought of getting intimate. He challenges Simon Peter to be vulnerable, offering them all a community strengthened by the intimacy that he offers. Intimacy, whether it's at the dinner table or in the bedroom, is a God-given gift. It demonstrates right relationships that are based in love and servitude. Intimacy, though, can be scary for many people because it requires vulnerability. It requires us letting our guards down and trusting another human being. That hasn't always worked out in the past. I think that most of us are uncomfortable talking about intimacy. Parents often dread having the talk with their children. There seems to be an unwarranted shame that goes along with being intimate. It challenges our comfortability. And so usually we just don't talk about it. We just don't act intimate with each other. Although Jesus points out to us today the importance of intimacy in lovingly washing the feet of those he loves, in motheringly hosting a Last Supper with those he has become so attached to, Jesus is intimate with those he loves. Simon Peter isn't comfortable, so Jesus explains. Intimacy is important. And though it can be scary because of the vulnerability that is needed, that does not mean that we don't desperately want it. It doesn't mean that Simon Peter doesn't see what Jesus is doing as an act of love. It just means that he's uncomfortable with it. Intimacy is a basic human need. As a matter of fact, I think that our society's need for intimacy is more evident than ever. Coupled with our need to remain invulnerable, this need has manifested itself in unhealthy ways with one-night stands and a hookup culture that would scare any parent. Intimacy has become something dirty. But all this really shows is how much we need each other. how much we desire deep down to be intimate, how much we want to be held in a loving embrace, even if it's only for one day, or 1 hour, or 1 minute. We are a society that needs intimacy. We always have. We have also always been uncomfortable with it. Too often creating environments where we get the intimate relationships we desire outside of safe relationships like marriage that require real vulnerability and partnership. Our fear has forced our society to find ways of intimacy that aren't what God wants for us. Truth be told, ways of intimacy that we don't really even want for ourselves. Simon Peter demonstrates his need to remain invulnerable. But Jesus explains to him that this is a perversion of the gift of love. Loving relationships mean being proportionately intimate. They mean being vulnerable. They mean learning the dirty stuff about each other, like the things that you can only learn by washing another's feet. Jesus, the most powerful person who ever lived, showed us the strength it takes to be vulnerable. He offers us the beginning of a world in which our relationships are restored to the health that they were intended to have, where we are able to be both vulnerable and intimate. Jesus restores our relationships with friends and lovers alike that God created us to have. In Jesus' last night before he was crucified, he offers us an example of right relationships. He offers us an answer to a hookup culture in which we reject long-lasting relationships because they mean being vulnerable. Jesus offers us renewed relationships where intimacy is a requirement, where being vulnerable is a requirement. He shows us the way to experience the love that we all want so bad. Jesus has set the example for his people now. Be vulnerable. Be intimate. Love one another and serve each other in the same ways that Jesus has done for you. Live in the love for each other that we were created to have. As Jesus says, if you know these things, you are blessed if you do them. Amen.